Jake Morrison stood at the window of the diplomatic ship and watched the stars. He had dreamed of this moment for 3 years. Today, humanity would finally join the galaxy. Today, they would take their place among the stars as equals. The ship, Harmony's Edge, moved slowly through space toward the massive station ahead. Jake could see other ships from dozens of different worlds. Some looked like metal butterflies. Others were long and thin like needles. A few seemed to be made of crystal that caught the light of nearby stars. "Ambassador Morrison will be docking in 20 minutes, said Captain Lisa Hayes over the radio. Her ship New Dawn followed behind them like a protective guardian. Jake knew she was nervous too. This was the biggest day in human history. Jake straightened his blue diplomatic suit and checked his notes one more time. Dr. Ryan Clark sat nearby, reading reports about alien biology. Commander Beth Turner reviewed security files on her tablet. They were humanity's best and brightest, chosen to represent their entire species. "Remember," Jake said to his team, "we're here to show them we're peaceful. We've moved beyond our violent past. We want to be part of something bigger." Ryan looked up from his reports. "The Zephyrians seem friendly. They're the ones who invited us, but the files say some species might not trust us yet." Beth nodded. "The Hegemony Coalition controls 1/3 of the galaxy. They've been asking hard questions about our military history. We need to be careful around them." The docking went smoothly. Jake stepped onto the station and felt his breath catch. The corridor stretched out like a rainbow tunnel. Beings from across the galaxy walked past them. Some had blue skin and silver eyes. Others looked like walking trees with golden leaves. A few floated in water-filled suits. Their guide was a tall Zephyrian named Silthara. Her blue skin shimmered in the station's soft light. "Welcome to Concordia Prime, Ambassador Morrison. We are honored to meet humanity's representatives." She led them through corridors filled with amazing sights. Gardens hung in the air without soil. Musicians played instruments that created colors as well as sounds. Children from different species played together, their laughter needing no translation. "This is what we want to be part of," Jake whispered to Ryan. "This is our future." The council chamber was huge. 12 different beings sat at a curved table that seemed to float in space. Each represented one of the galaxy's most powerful species. Jake recognized the Zephyrian leader and the crystal-bodied ethereals. At the far end sat the Hegemony delegation. The Hegemony beings looked like armored insects. Their leader, Counselor Vextar, had red eyes that seemed to burn with inner fire. Jake felt a chill when those eyes focused on him. "Honored counselors," Jake began, "I come before you representing humanity. We seek not conquest but cooperation. Not dominance but dialogue. We offer our friendship to all species who value peace." The presentation went well. Jake showed them human art, music, and literature. He spoke of Earth's beauty and humanity's dreams of exploring the stars together with new friends. Several council members seemed impressed. Then Vextar spoke. His voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "These humans speak of peace, yet their history runs red with blood. They have fought wars for thousands of years. How can we trust beings who solve problems with violence?" Jake kept his voice calm. "Counselor Vextar, we acknowledge our past mistakes, but we have grown. We have learned. For the last 2 centuries, humanity has focused on exploration and discovery, not war. We come to you with open hands and peaceful hearts." "Pretty words," Vextar replied. "But words are cheap. Your species destroyed their own world's environment. You fight over resources, religion, and territory. You are barely evolved primates pretending to be civilized." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. "We have overcome those challenges. Yes, we have made mistakes, but we learn from them. That is what makes us strong." The formal session ended with cautious approval. 3 species voted to accept humanity immediately. 5 wanted more time to study them. 4, including the Hegemony, voted against membership for now. That evening, the council held a cultural exchange dinner. Species from across the galaxy shared food, stories, and traditions. Jake felt hopeful as he watched humans laughing with alien children and trading songs with beings who communicated through color changes. Lieutenant Paul Bennett, Jake's young aide, was excited to be there. He had studied alien cultures for years and dreamed of meeting them in person. When a group of hegemony warriors began mocking human achievements, Paul could not stay quiet. "You say we're primitive," Paul said, standing up from his table. "But we've never enslaved other species like you have. We've never destroyed entire worlds for refusing to bow down." The hegemony warriors buzzed angrily. Their leader, a massive being called Zaltek, rose to his full height. "You dare insult the hegemony, human whelp?" "I'm stating facts," Paul replied. "Your coalition has conquered 47 species. How many chose to join willingly?" The argument grew heated. Other beings stopped eating to watch. Paul stepped forward, gesturing toward a display case behind Zaltek. "You claim to be honorable warriors, but honor doesn't come from bullying weaker species." Paul's hand swept out as he spoke. His fingers caught the edge of an ancient stone sculpture in the display case. The artifact wobbled, fell, and shattered on the floor with a sound like breaking glass. The room went completely silent. Zaltek stared at the broken pieces. His breathing grew heavy and loud. Other hegemony beings began making clicking sounds that Jake realized were expressions of grief and rage. "You have destroyed a memory stone," Zaltek said slowly. "The consciousness of our ancient warriors was stored within. You have murdered our ancestors." Jake rushed forward. "It was an accident. Lieutenant Bennett meant no disrespect. We can replace it, repair it, whatever you need." "There is no replacement for the dead," Zaltek replied. "There is no repair for murder. The Hegemony Coalition hereby declares war on the human species. You will pay for this insult with your extinction." The alien commander turned and walked away. The other hegemony beings followed, leaving the broken stone and a room full of shocked silence. Jake stared at the fragments on the floor. In one careless moment, humanity's bright future had become a nightmare. They had come seeking friendship and found only war. Commander Turner was already on her radio, calling Captain Hayes. "Lisa, we need immediate extraction. Things have gone very, very wrong." As they rushed toward their ship, Jake realized that humanity was about to face its greatest test. They were alone against an empire of 47 species, and they had 30 days to prepare for a war they could not possibly win. The emergency meeting room in the White House buzzed with worried voices. President Amanda Foster sat at the head of the long table, her face pale as she read the report for the third time. Around her, the most important people in Earth's government waited for her to speak. "So let me understand this correctly," Amanda said slowly. "Lieutenant Bennett broke something by accident, and now 47 alien species want to destroy all of humanity?" Admiral Steve Martinez nodded grimly. "That's exactly right, Madam President. The Hegemony Coalition controls over 3,000 star systems. They have millions of ships and soldiers. We have 12 warships and maybe 50,000 trained space marines." General Carol White leaned forward. "The numbers are not good. If they decide to attack, we cannot win a normal war. They could send 1,000 ships to every one of ours and still have plenty left over." Dr. Helen Grant, the government's top expert on alien minds, spoke up. "I've been studying everything we know about hegemony culture. The artifact that Lieutenant Bennett broke was called a memory stone. It contained the recorded thoughts and experiences of their ancient warriors. To them, breaking it is like killing their grandfathers." "But it was an accident," Amanda said. "Surely they can understand that." Helen shook her head. "Their culture doesn't care about accidents when it comes to sacred objects. In their minds, we show disrespect to their most honored dead. There is no forgiveness for that." Kevin Ross, the head of Earth's intelligence service, cleared his throat. "We've been monitoring their communications. They're calling us primitive, apes and violent children who need to be taught proper behavior. They don't see us as equals. To them, we're like wild animals that attack their family." Amanda closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was steady. "What are our options?" "We can surrender completely," said General White. "Accept their terms and become servants to their empire. They've promised to spare most of our population if we submit within 30 days. "What does most of our population mean?" Amanda asked. Admiral Martinez consulted his notes. "They want to take 10% of our people as slaves. The rest would live under their rule, working in jobs they assign. No more human government. No more freedom to make our own choices. And our other option?" "We fight," Steve said simply. "We fight and probably lose, but we go down as free humans." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the math. Earth had been building spaceships for less than 50 years. The hegemony had been conquering worlds for thousands of years. Their technology was better, their ships were bigger, and they had practiced destroying entire civilizations. Amanda looked around the table at each person. These were good people, smart people, and they all knew they were facing the end of everything they loved. Has anyone tried to contact the other alien species, the ones on the Galactic Council who seemed friendly? Dr. Helen Grant sighed. "I've been trying. Most won't even answer our messages. The few who do say they're sorry, but they can't help us. There's some kind of old law that says the Council cannot interfere in what they call honor disputes." "So we're alone," Amanda said. "Completely alone," confirmed Kevin Ross. Meanwhile, on the edge of human space, Governor Sam Taylor was having his own crisis. The colony world of New Dakota was home to 30,000 people who had come here to start new lives. They had farms, schools, and small factories. It was a peaceful place where children played in the streets and families gathered for dinner each night. Now Captain Megan Cole stood in his office, her face grim as she delivered the worst news possible. "The ships appeared this morning," Megan said. 15 of them, all hegemony design. They're not attacking yet, but they're scanning everything. Recording our defenses, counting our population, measuring our cities. Sam looked out his window, at the town below. People were going about their normal business, not knowing that alien warships were studying them like scientists studying insects. "How long do we have?" Sam asked. "I don't know. Maybe days, maybe weeks, but they're definitely planning something. My ship detected high-energy scans that could only be weapon targeting systems." Sam had been a soldier once, before he became a governor. He knew what those scans meant. The aliens were deciding the best way to attack, figuring out where to hit first and how to cause the most damage. "What about evacuation?" he asked. Megan shook her head. "Where would we go? Earth is going to be attacked too. The other colonies are just as vulnerable as we are. There's nowhere safe in human space." Back on Earth, the president was reading reports from all the human colonies. Every single one had been visited by hegemony scout ships. The aliens were mapping every human world, every space station, every ship. They were preparing for a war that would wipe out humanity completely. Amanda called Admiral Martinez into her private office. "Steve, I need you to tell me the truth. Is there any chance we can win this?" Steve was quiet for a long moment. "In a straight fight? No, they have too many ships, too many soldiers, too much experience, but what? We've never fought a war like this before. Most species, when they see they're outmatched, they surrender quickly. The hegemony is used to easy victories. They expect their enemies to give up when they see how powerful the hegemony is. Are you saying we should fight?" "I'm saying that maybe, just maybe, we're different from other species. Maybe we don't give up as easily as they expect." That evening, Amanda stood before the cameras to address not just America, but all of humanity. People around the world stopped what they were doing to listen to their leaders. In the colonies, families gathered around communication screens. On space stations, workers left their jobs to hear what their president would say. "My fellow humans," Amanda began, "I will not lie to you. We face the greatest threat in human history. An alien empire has declared war on us, and they have the power to destroy every human world." She paused, seeing the fear in the faces of her advisors standing nearby. "They have given us 30 days to surrender completely, to accept slavery in exchange for survival. They believe we will choose safety over freedom." Another pause. "They are wrong." Amanda's voice grew stronger. "We have faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, wars that threatened to destroy our entire species. Each time humans chose to fight rather than give up. We chose hope over fear, courage over safety. We will not surrender. We will not become slaves. If we must fight, we will fight. If we must die, we will die as free humans. The message went out across human space. On New Dakota, Governor Sam Taylor felt a surge of pride as he listened. On the space stations, workers cheered. In the colonies, people began preparing for war. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought humans were like every other species they had conquered. They expected fear, surrender, and quick submission. Instead, they had awakened something they had never encountered before. They had declared war on a species that simply did not know how to give up. The 30-day countdown had begun, and humanity was getting ready to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened everything they loved. The attack on Kepler's world came at dawn. Colonel Danny Shaw was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. Through his office window, he could see the massive hegemony ships dropping out of space like dark clouds. "Sir, we've got incoming." Sergeant Tony Rivera burst through the door. 15 battleships and at least 50 troop carriers. They're heading straight for the mining complex. Danny set down his coffee cup and grabbed his rifle. Kepler's world was a small mining colony with only 300 Marines to defend it. The hegemony was bringing 3,000 of their best warriors. "Get everyone to battle stations," Danny ordered. "And Tony, remember what they taught us in training. We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive." The hegemony warriors landed expecting an easy victory. They had fought dozens of species before, and everyone had either surrendered quickly or fought in predictable ways. They expected the humans to line up in neat rows and fire at each other like gentlemen. Instead, the humans disappeared. Commander Vexanath of the hegemony forces stood in the empty town square, confused. His sensors showed human life signs all around, but he couldn't see any soldiers. The buildings looked normal, the streets were clean, but there were no defenders in sight. "Where are they?" he asked his second-in-command. The answer came in the form of an explosion. The building to his left erupted in flames, taking out 20 hegemony soldiers. Then another explosion hit the building to his right, then another behind him. The humans had turned the entire town into a trap. Sergeant Tony Rivera crouched in the basement of the hardware store, watching the alien soldiers through a small camera he had hidden in a street lamp. When a group of 10 warriors walked past the bakery, Tony pressed a button on his remote control. The bakery exploded, sending metal and concrete flying in all directions. The hegemony soldiers were thrown to the ground, their armor cracked and smoking. "That's for threatening my planet," Tony whispered, then crawled through the tunnel he had dug to his next hiding spot. This was not how the hegemony expected war to work. Their enemies were supposed to stand and fight, not hide and explode things. They were supposed to face death with honor, not strike from shadows and run away. Commander Vexanath called for his special forces. The Dread Warriors were 10 feet tall with thick armor and weapons that could cut through steel. They were designed to scare enemies into surrendering just by being seen. The Dread Warriors marched through the town, their heavy footsteps echoing off the buildings. Behind them came regular soldiers, confident that these monsters would flush out the hiding humans. They found Sergeant Rivera in the town's water treatment plant. He was alone, armed with nothing but a standard human rifle and a backpack full of supplies. "Surrender, small creature," the lead Dread Warrior commanded in broken human language. "You cannot defeat us." Tony looked up at the 10-foot-tall monster and smiled. "You're right. I can't defeat you." The Dread Warrior relaxed, thinking the IMI human was giving up. "But I can definitely annoy you," Tony added, then pressed another button on his remote. The floor beneath the Dread Warriors collapsed, dropping them into the colony's waste processing tanks. The aliens thrashed and roared as they sank into 20 feet of liquid sewage. "Welcome to human warfare," Tony called down to them. "It's not pretty, but it works." The battle for Kepler's world continued for 3 days. The hegemony had more soldiers, better weapons, and superior technology, but they had never fought an enemy that thought like humans. When the aliens set up a command post, the humans filled the building's air system with smoke from burning plastic, forcing them to evacuate. When the aliens tried to use their heavy weapons, the humans collapsed the streets with hidden charges, trapping the big guns in holes. The hegemony soldiers grew frustrated and angry. This was not war as they knew it. These humans fought like criminals, using tricks and traps instead of honest combat. Colonel Danny Shaw watched the battle from his hidden command center deep underground. His Marines were holding their own, but they couldn't win. There were too many enemies and they were running out of supplies. That's when Captain Lisa Hayes arrived. The USS New Dawn and 2 other human ships dropped out of hyperspace just as the hegemony was preparing their final assault. The alien fleet commander was confident. 3 small human ships against 15 massive hegemony battleships was no contest. He was wrong. Captain Hayes had spent the last month studying every battle the hegemony had ever fought. She learned that they always used the same tactics, always fought the same way. They expected their enemies to do the same thing. All ships, listen carefully, Lisa broadcast to her small fleet. We're not going to fight them ship to ship. We're going to do something they've never seen before. Instead of attacking the hegemony ships directly, Lisa ordered her ships to fly straight toward Kepler's moon. The alien commander laughed, thinking the humans were running away. The humans used the moon's gravity to slingshot themselves back toward the hegemony fleet at incredible speed. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, it was too late. The New Dawn, her engines overloaded and her hull glowing red-hot, slammed directly into the hegemony flagship. The impact crippled both ships, but the alien command vessel was destroyed, while the New Dawn's crew escaped in life pods. The other 2 human ships used the confusion to attack the hegemony troop carriers. Without their command ship, the alien fleet fell into disorder. Some ships tried to retreat, others tried to fight, and several crashed into each other in the chaos. On the ground, Colonel Shaw's Marines watched the sky light up with explosions. The hegemony soldiers, cut off from their fleet and surrounded by angry humans, finally did something they had never done before. They surrendered. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. The hegemony, who had conquered species after species for thousands of years, had been defeated by a few hundred humans with basic weapons and clever tactics. On the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Silthara of the Zephyrians read the battle reports with growing amazement. "How is this possible?" she asked her aide. "The humans were outnumbered 10 to 1. Their technology is centuries behind the hegemony's." "The humans don't fight like other species," her aide replied. "They use their environment as a weapon. They attack from unexpected directions. They refuse to follow the normal rules of warfare." Silthara thought about this. Every species the hegemony had conquered had fought honorably and lost quickly. The humans fought dishonorably and won. "Maybe," she said quietly. "Honor is not the most important thing in a war." Back on Earth, Dr. Helen Grant studied the recordings from Kepler's world. She was trying to understand why the humans had won when victory should have been impossible. "It's not that we're stronger," she told Admiral Martinez. "It's that we're different. Every other species the hegemony has fought thinks like they do. They expect certain behaviors in war. We don't think like them at all." "What do you mean?" "When they see a superior enemy, they calculate the odds and surrender to save lives. When we see a superior enemy, we get angry and start looking for ways to hurt them. We don't accept that we're supposed to lose." Admiral Martinez nodded slowly. "So you're saying they've never fought anyone crazy enough to think they can win an impossible fight?" "Exactly. And that's what makes us dangerous. We don't know when to quit." The victory at Kepler's world changed everything. Other species across the galaxy began to pay attention to the humans. The hegemony, meanwhile, realized they had made a terrible mistake. They had thought they were fighting primitive creatures who would surrender quickly. Instead, they had awakened something they had never encountered before. They had declared war on a species that simply refused to lose. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you threatened humanity, and the lesson would be written in fire and blood across the stars. The siege of New Dakota began on a Tuesday morning. Governor Sam Taylor stood on his office balcony, watching 50 hegemony warships drop out of space above his world. Each ship was 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built. 30,000 people, Sam said to Captain Megan Cole, who stood beside him. That's all we have. Men, women, children, farmers, and factory workers. They're bringing enough soldiers to conquer a planet. Megan checked her tablet. My scouts report. At least 200,000 hegemony troops on those ships, plus tanks, aircraft, and weapons we don't even have names for. Sam was quiet for a moment. Any sane person would surrender. The odds were impossible. But Sam had been listening to the reports from Kepler's world, and he had an idea. Megan, how fast can your people teach our miners to use their equipment as weapons? What do you mean? I mean, what if we don't fight them like soldiers? What if we fight them like angry colonists who don't want to leave their homes? Captain Megan Cole smiled. She was beginning to understand. The Hegemony Fleet Commander, General Zarthek, expected the humans to surrender when they saw his massive force. Instead, he received a message from Governor Taylor that made no sense. You want our world? Come and take it. The first wave of hegemony dropships landed near New Dakota's main city. The soldiers inside expected to face human military forces. Instead, they found empty streets and quiet buildings. Then the ground exploded beneath their feet. The humans had turned their mining charges into massive bombs. Streets erupted like volcanoes, sending alien soldiers flying. Buildings that looked abandoned suddenly sprouted weapons from windows and rooftops. Engineer Laura Kim crouched in the basement of the power plant, her fingers flying over a keyboard. She wasn't a soldier, but she was very good with computers, and she had just discovered something amazing. The hegemony ships are trying to hack our systems, she told her team over the radio. But their computers are too advanced. They can't handle our messy, chaotic programming. What does that mean? Asked Marcus Jones, the colony's head of computer security. It means we can hack them back. Their systems are designed to be perfect and organized. Ours are designed to work even when everything goes wrong. We can send them viruses that will drive their computers crazy. Laura typed a few commands and smiled. Let's see how they like some good old human chaos. Across the city, hegemony soldiers were having the worst day of their military careers. Their communication systems kept playing human music instead of orders. Their targeting computers kept showing pictures of cats. Their transport vehicles suddenly started speaking in different human languages. But the real surprise came when the humans started using their industrial equipment as weapons. Construction worker Pete Johnson sat in the driver's seat of a massive mining robot, grinning as he chased a group of hegemony soldiers down the street. The robot had been designed to dig through solid rock. Alien soldiers were much easier to handle. This is Pete to all mining crews, he radioed. These aliens don't like it when you throw rocks at them. The bigger the rocks, the less they like it. All across New Dakota, humans were discovering that their everyday tools made excellent weapons. Farmers used their crop sprayers to shoot acid at alien armor. Factory workers turned their assembly lines into trap-making machines. Even the children helped, using their knowledge of the colony's tunnel system to move supplies and messages. The hegemony had expected to conquer New Dakota in a few hours. After 3 days, they were still fighting for control of the main street. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other alien species were watching the battle with growing amazement. The Kalari, who were famous for their military strategy, could not understand what they were seeing. The humans should have lost immediately, General Korthani told his staff. They have no proper military formations. They don't follow any known battle tactics. They fight like... Like what, sir? Asked his aide. Like they're insane. They make decisions that should get them killed, but somehow they work. It's like they don't understand that they're supposed to lose. The Silvari, an ancient, peaceful species, were having similar thoughts. Ambassador Telvara watched the battle reports with fascination. Every species we know fights to win, she told her council. The humans fight to not lose. That's completely different. What do you mean? Asked another council member. When other species calculate that they cannot win, they surrender to save lives. When humans calculate that they cannot win, they fight harder to make the enemy pay for victory. They turn losing into a weapon. Back on New Dakota, Commander Beth Turner was putting this philosophy into practice. She had been a military advisor to the diplomatic mission, But now she was leading raids deep behind enemy lines using captured hegemony ships. The trick is to never do what they expect, she explained to her team as they prepared for another mission. They expect us to defend our positions. Instead, we attack theirs. They expect us to protect our civilians. Instead, our civilians protect themselves while we steal their supplies. Beth's raids were driving the hegemony forces crazy. Every time they thought they had the humans figured out, Beth would hit a target they thought was completely safe. She rescued prisoners from ships in orbit, stole weapons from supply depots, and once even kidnapped a hegemony general just to prove it could be done. The turning point came when Laura Kim's computer virus reached the hegemony fleet in orbit. The virus was designed to make their systems think in human ways instead of alien ways. The results were catastrophic for the aliens. Hegemony ships started targeting each other by mistake. Their navigation systems began plotting courses to places that didn't exist. Worst of all, their translation programs started converting all military orders into human jokes and recipes. General Zarthek watched his perfectly organized invasion fall apart into chaos. Nothing was working the way it was supposed to. His soldiers couldn't communicate properly. His ships couldn't coordinate attacks, and the humans just kept fighting no matter how many times they should have been defeated. How is this possible? He demanded of his staff. We have superior numbers, superior technology, superior training. How are we losing to these primitive creatures? His intelligence officer, a nervous alien named Vextai, cleared his throat. Sir, I've been studying the human battle records. I think the problem is that we've been thinking of this as a normal war. What do you mean? Normal wars have rules. Both sides understand what victory and defeat look like. They fight until one side wins, then the losing side surrenders. But the humans don't seem to understand the rules. General Zarthek stared at him. Are you saying they don't know how to lose? I'm saying they don't believe they can lose. Even when they're clearly beaten, they keep fighting. Even when they should surrender, they attack instead. It's like they think that as long as they don't give up, they haven't lost yet. The news from New Dakota spread throughout the galaxy. The mighty hegemony, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, were being held off by human farmers and factory workers. Species that had been terrified of the hegemony for centuries began to wonder if their oppressors were really as invincible as they claimed. On the Galactic Council Station, Ambassador Silthera received a secret message from 12 different species. They all wanted to know the same thing. Was it possible that the humans might actually win this war? If they do win, she told her aide, everything changes. The hegemony has controlled half the galaxy through fear. If that fear is broken, other species might start fighting back, her aide finished. Silthera nodded. The humans aren't just fighting for themselves anymore. They're showing everyone that the hegemony can be beaten. That's the most dangerous thing they could possibly do. On New Dakota, Governor Sam Taylor watched the sunset from his balcony. The city was damaged, but it was still free. The hegemony controlled most of the planet, but they hadn't broken the human spirit. We're not winning, he told Captain Megan, but we're not losing either. Is that enough? Megan asked. Sam smiled. For humans, that's everything. As long as we don't lose, we have a chance to win. And as long as we have a chance, we'll keep fighting. The galaxy was beginning to understand something important about humanity. They weren't the strongest species, or the smartest or the most advanced, but they were the most stubborn, and sometimes being too stubborn to quit is the most powerful weapon of all. The final battle began when 1,200 hegemony ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. Hegemon Supreme Commander Zalthek had brought the largest fleet in galactic history to destroy humanity's homeworld, once and for all. Today, we end this embarrassment, Zalthek announced to his massive fleet. These primitive humans have made us look weak in front of the galaxy. We will burn their world to ash and show everyone what happens when you defy the hegemony. Admiral Steve Martinez stood on the bridge of the human flagship, watching the enormous enemy fleet approach. He had only 47 ships to defend Earth, and most of them were converted cargo vessels with weapons bolted on wherever they could fit. Sir, his communications officer said, the hegemony commander is demanding our surrender. He says if we give up now, he'll only destroy our military and spare the civilians. Steve thought about all the humans on Earth below. Billions of people living their lives, going to work, raising children, dreaming of the future. Then he thought about what the hegemony did to species they conquered. "Tell him thanks, but no thanks," Steve replied. "Earth is not for sale." The hegemony fleet expected the humans to meet them at the edge of the solar system, where most space battles were fought. Instead, the human ships seemed to be running away toward their home planet. Zaltek laughed. "Look at them flee like cowards. Follow them to their world. We'll destroy their planet in front of their eyes." But Admiral Martinez wasn't running. He was setting a trap. As the hegemony fleet chased the humans deeper into the solar system, they passed Jupiter, then Mars, then the asteroid belt. They didn't notice the hidden human bases on Jupiter's moons, or the weapon platforms disguised as mining stations around Mars. "Now," Steve whispered. The solar system exploded into action. Jupiter's moons revealed massive railguns that fired chunks of ice and rock at incredible speeds. Mars' orbit lit up with missile launchers that had been hidden in the planet's industrial stations. Even the asteroid belt joined the fight as mining robots threw rocks at enemy ships. The hegemony fleet found themselves under attack from every direction. This wasn't a space battle. It was an ambush using an entire solar system as a weapon. Captain Jake Morrison, the former ambassador who now commanded a converted cargo ship, led his squadron through Saturn's rings. The alien sensors couldn't track them through the ice and debris, allowing the humans to attack from complete surprise. "This is for calling us primitive," Jake said, as his ship fired its makeshift weapons at a hegemony battleship. Captain Lisa Hayes, now promoted to admiral after her heroics at Kepler's World, coordinated the defense from her new flagship. She had learned something important about fighting the hegemony. They were used to enemies who fought fairly and predictably. Humans did neither. "All ships, random pattern 7, she ordered. "Make it impossible for them to predict where we'll be." The human ships scattered in all directions, some diving toward the sun, others climbing high above the solar plane, a few even flying backward while shooting. The hegemony computers, designed for organized warfare, couldn't calculate firing solutions against enemies who moved in completely random ways. But the real surprise came from an unexpected source. Dr. Helen Grant had spent months studying hegemony culture, and she had discovered something important. She was now broadcasting directly to the enemy fleet in their own language, revealing a secret that Zaltek had hidden from his own forces. "Attention, hegemony warriors." Helen's voice echoed through every enemy ship. "Your supreme commander has lied to you. The humans never meant to insult your sacred artifact. It was broken by accident during a peaceful ceremony. Zaltek knew this, but he chose war anyway to increase his own power." At the same time, engineer Laura Kim was launching her most devastating computer virus yet. This one forced every hegemony ship to display videos on their screens. Videos that showed human soldiers risking their lives to save hegemony civilians during earlier battles. The hegemony crews watched in shock as they saw humans carrying wounded alien children to safety, sharing food with starving enemy prisoners and providing medical care to captured soldiers. These were not the savage monsters their commanders had described. Captain Tony Rivera's voice joined the broadcast. He was speaking directly to the alien soldiers, telling them how humans had treated their captured comrades with respect and kindness. "We don't want to destroy you," Tony said. "We just want to be left alone. Your leaders say we're monsters, but you can see for yourselves how we really behave. We fight hard, but we don't hurt innocent people." The effect on the hegemony fleet was immediate and devastating. Ships began slowing down, their crews confused and angry. Some vessels stopped firing entirely. Others turned their weapons on each other as different species in the coalition began arguing. Admiral Martinez watched the enemy fleet tear itself apart and realized something amazing was happening. The humans weren't just winning a battle, they were ending an empire. The breaking point came when Zaltek ordered his ships to fire on Earth cities, hoping to force the humans to surrender by threatening civilians. Half his fleet refused the order. When he tried to fire personally, his own officers stopped him. "We did not sign up to murder children," declared Commander Vexithara, one of his top officers. These humans fight with honor, even when we do not. I will not stain my family's name with the blood of innocence. The hegemony fleet split into 3 groups. 1/3 fled the battle immediately, no longer willing to fight for a leader they saw as dishonorable. 1/3 surrendered to the humans, asking for the same mercy they had seen in the videos. The final third tried to continue fighting, but without coordination, they were easily defeated by the humans and their own former allies. Zalthek himself was captured when his ship was boarded by a combined force of humans and rebel hegemony soldiers. His last words were a question that showed how little he understood about humanity. How? He asked Admiral Martinez. How did you defeat us? We had more ships, better weapons, superior technology. Steve looked at the fallen alien commander and shook his head. You made the same mistake everyone makes about humans. You thought this was about ships and weapons. It was never about that. Then what was it about? It was about the fact that when you threaten our families, our homes, our freedom, we don't calculate the odds. We don't surrender because it's logical. We fight because it's who we are. And we keep fighting until either you give up or we're all dead. 6 months later, Ambassador Jake Morrison stood before the Galactic Council once again. But this time, he wasn't asking for membership. He was accepting an invitation to join as an equal partner. The Hegemony Coalition had dissolved completely. 23 species had declared independence and were forming their own governments. 12 species had signed defense treaties with Earth, asking humans to help protect them from other potential conquerors. The humans have taught us something important, Ambassador Silthara told the assembled delegates. Freedom is not something that is given. It is something that must be taken and defended, and some beings will fight for it no matter what the cost. President Amanda Foster addressed the United Nations and the first interspecies assembly ever held on Earth. Representatives from 30 different species sat in the audience, all of them eager to learn from humanity's example. We didn't start this war, Amanda said. We didn't want this war, but when freedom was threatened, we chose to fight rather than surrender. Today we offer that same choice to every species in the galaxy. You don't have to live under the boot of tyrants. You don't have to accept slavery because the alternative seems impossible. Stand up, fight back, and remember that as long as you refuse to give up, you haven't lost. In the end, Lieutenant Paul Bennett, whose accidental breaking of an artifact had started the whole war, was invited to place a memorial stone in Earth's new interspecies garden. The inscription read, "To all species, freedom is not given, it is taken, and some beings will fight for it until the stars burn out." The galaxy had learned why you should never declare war on humanity. Not because humans were the strongest or the smartest, but because they were the ones who would never ever give up. And sometimes that was the most powerful weapon in the universe. As the celebration continued around him, Jake Morrison looked up at the stars and smiled. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as conquerors, but as the species that reminded everyone else that freedom was worth fighting for, no matter how impossible the odds seemed. The war was over, but the lesson would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. Some fights are worth having even when you can't win, because sometimes refusing to lose is the same thing as victory.